Common Sense America with Eden Cornell. Yeah.
And good morning. It is Wednesday. It is December the 14th. And I tell you what, we are headed right into the Christmas holiday season. And I know many of you out there are already on holiday. Many of you and the kids are already taking off for Christmas holiday and getting ready for Hanukkah, for all of those who observe the Hanukkah holidays. And also for all of you who are just kind of taking a step back and packing up and getting the kids ready to go see grandparents or family members. I am so grateful for those of you who are tuning in this morning here at Common Sense America. But if by chance you missed this episode this morning, feel free and head over to my Rumble account or my YouTube account at Common Sense America with Eden Hill. You see it right down there below as it is scrolling along the bottom half of the screen. I wanted to share with you guys a couple things that are really resonating with me this Christmas season. And I shared with you briefly on my YouTube account and my Facebook account yesterday about our lives and how much they matter to each and every one of us, but also to God and how we are here for such a time as this. And, I went on my mental health walk, and I can't stress it enough. Go on health walks as much as you can. How cold it is, I don't care. Get out there, get that vitamin D, talk to people, engage with people, restore, renew, and refresh that ticker and that mind of yours. We need it more than ever. You know why? We have family members that need us. We have husbands and wives that need us. We have kids that needs us. We have a community and we have a nation that needs us. You matter. You matter. You matter. You matter. Yes, you matter. And I had a lot of people share with me their personal thoughts, but made them public on Facebook yesterday saying, thank you. Thank you for being real. Thank you for talking to us. Thank you for bringing this up. And yes, you are welcome. I don't think we are talking enough as a community anymore. I think we are all so engrossed with just keeping our head above water because of what is happening in and around our nation, because we are keeping our head above water, trying to put gas in that tank. I don't care if the gas prices have gone down. Don't you dare thank Biden, because that has nothing to do with him. Nothing. So get it in that noggin of yours. Okay. We are going to be talking about a pretty heavy issue today, but I had to talk with you guys, not yelling at you. Yes, I did do it in bold on Facebook and Instagram yesterday, but I had to tell you guys, you matter more than anything. If you are struggling this holiday season with loss of family members, if you are struggling with, a health diagnosis, if you are struggling just to get by and keep your head up, just remember you matter to me. You matter to your community. You matter to your family. Even if you feel invisible, and I know a lot of us do at this time period, we get taken for granted. People think we'll pick up the pieces because she got it. He got it. But just remember that your life, your journey, your footsteps, your heart, your soul, your mind, you matter. A lot came out in the news yesterday. A lot is going to come out in the news as we head into the Christmas season, as we head into the Christmas vacation. And it's up to you if you want to just kind of take a break from the news cycle. I'm there with you. Our minds and our spirits need to be refreshed with Christ. They need to be refreshed with family, and they need to be filled back up with the hope and a wonder of this season. But if in fact you do check into the news here, there, as you are on your holiday vacation, as you're celebrating the holidays, celebrating your faith, I do want to let you know the lamestream media is really stirring a pot on this triple-demic. I was watching ABC News in passing as my husband has to watch it every night. And I always then have to deprogram his brain from the toxic lies. That's why we have here at Common Sense America the truth. I seek to bring you the truth each and every day. And this episode that I will be airing in just a few minutes is bringing the truth about what has been taking place in our federal government, in our nation's capital, and in our White House for many years. Not going to fabricate any of this, but I will put this note out to each and every one of you. Listener discretion is advised in many aspects. The gentleman that you may or may not have heard of, his name is Jack Maxey. He has been around this subject for a while now. And if for all of the moms and the dads out there that don't have time for Twitter, don't bother. We're going to break it down for you today. It is a 2-part series. This morning, you will hear the first part of my personal and private interview with Jack Maxey. The other part will air on Friday. And as I talked with him in these pre-recorded interviews, we talked about the FBI corruption, Child Protective Services. Like I said, listener discretion advised, because he uncovered pieces on the Hunter laptop that destroy the very fabric of our hearts and our minds, and that is our children and our next generation. This guy is the devil walking. He breaks it down. He talks about that. He talks about how he doesn't fear for his life as he uncovers even more content from that laptop. I'm impressed. He talks about how the election in 2020 could have been changed if the reveal of this laptop would have been at the forefront. He talks about our agencies and how they are filled with corruption. But what's even more disturbing is how the agencies that train their members, whether it's FBI, CIA, all of the intelligence agencies, are actually the worst when it comes down to protecting the lives of children in prostitution and human trafficking, sex slavery. They're the worst. So you will be hearing from Jack Maxey, and then we will end the segment today, and part 2 will air on Friday. For the kitchen table discussions today, I told you it was going to be a little bit heavy. I did post an announcement on social media this morning. I tagged quite a bit of you who have been following the show, who are supporters of the show. I am thankful to Blue Network. I'm thankful to the huge audience I have from New York to North Carolina, Ohio, Indiana, California. I'm thankful for each and every one of you and your support to Common Sense America. You know, I put a lot of time and studying and effort into bringing you truth, because we are, just face it, I mean, we're lied to daily, whether it's from a friend, a colleague, or the mainstream media. People are just, really trying to keep their head above water, and they'll do it any way possible. But here at Common Sense America, I study for you. I really look at the facts and the truth of what is happening in and around our nation in the North Carolina backyards, from the empty suit in Raleigh to the White House and the human trafficking ring that is literally being organized in our nation's capital. So just know, every morning when I get up, I think about, what can I bring to the kitchen table discussions, one that'll impact and change for the good. Yeah, one of my faults, and I've told people this, is I want to save the world, and I know I can't. Only Christ Jesus can. But we as a faith-based community can come together to make a bigger impact, to tear down evil, and know that God wins at the end of the day. But that is one of my faults, is trying to save this world. And I've been criticized for having those glasses, not necessarily rose-colored glasses, but just wanting to serve and wanting to love people and wanting to save people. But instead, we let the Marriage Act signed by Biden and a performance by, I'm not sure what, yesterday. Don't get me wrong, I love all God's people, but I don't want that being forced down my throats 24/7. You know how we talked about the Disrespect Marriage Act? I'll tell you what, remember I talked about Joni Ernst, our combat veteran, and Todd Young, another veteran? They're getting some major heat back in their middle of the country in Iowa and Indiana. I told you it was going to happen, and it's happening. I'm not sure what they're justifying it with, because at the end of the day, middle America is more about religious freedoms and rights than anything. And middle America, they're all about farming. They're all about this country. They're all about God and country and family. I didn't realize there was an issue with marriage in the public square. Traditional, same sex. I didn't realize there was an issue. Why does it have to be an issue? Why does it even have to be a part of the federal government? Why can't the government get out of our pockets and get out of our homes? So, as we lead into this pre-recorded interview, it talks a lot about the government, what they are doing and what they're not doing. I can't help but wonder where the money trail leads, and you'll hear more about the money trail too. I would love your comments, your thoughts, your suggestions during the holiday. And, you know, if you guys would like to hear me next week and like to hear some new interviews next week, I'd be glad to bring them to you. But if you guys are all on Christmas holiday, also let me know too. We can just air re-records of amazing organizations and amazing topics, or we can just start fresh and new as we head into the new year. But you guys let me know, because I absolutely love talking with you each and every morning. I also want to prepare you for what's ahead in 2023 for our fiscal, financial obligations, the debt, COVID. Bye-bye, Fauci. See ya. Whatever this tour you're on, stop screwing with the American people, you little elf. But what I want to do more than anything is bring to you what your hearts long to seek. Fill your cups with Jesus and faith, being energy and positiveness. No rose-colored glasses here, but you know what? I did ask God this morning. I need new glasses, especially to read. I'm noticing my eyes are changing. But I also asked him this morning to give me eyes to see what he wants me to see. Give me a new vision for what is ahead. There's nothing wrong with that. So I'm going to take a quick break, get this interview teed up, and then tomorrow, in between, tomorrow, we'll have two new guests coming to the show. Grateful for Kirsten Fedewa, her amazing clients, her amazing connections in Washington, D.C. We'll be having a policy expert just come and talk about economics, what's ahead for us in 2023. And then also truck drivers, for any of you listening in, we have a truck drivers piece from Young Voices. It really caught my interest and my heart because I think they go unnoticed, unrecognized, and definitely not thanked. So we'll be doing a piece on them tomorrow as well. And then Friday, we'll wrap it up with part 2 with Jack Maxey. If you guys are not educated on him, don't go to Twitter. Don't waste your time. Twitter is a great source for all of us who are in public relations and media and broadcast journalism, all of those things. But at the end of the day, I just want you to hear Jack's story and what brought all of this to light. And then I'll let you guys come to your own conclusion. I'm not going to tell you which way to go. You'll hear a lot in these 2-part interviews. And Jack said he would come back to do some more interviews early next year. So on that note, it is 9:15. I'm going to get this teed up. We're going to take a quick break, and then you will hear from Jack Maxey in a pre-recorded interview. Thanks, you guys. We'll be right back. Morning. Thank you for joining us here at Common Sense America. I am Eden Hill, and as you all know, we are about God, country, and family, and we are all about protecting our nation's backyard. We here at Common Sense America talk about the kitchen table topics that are facing our nation's families, our next generation, our education, the lives of the unborn, and human trafficking. We will be talking about that in this segment today. This morning, I am honored to have to the show Jack Maxey. He is the gentleman behind revealing the contents of the Hunter Biden laptop. Jack, thank you so much for joining us this morning here at Common Sense America.
Thank you very much. And common sense is something that's in short supply in this country right now.
It is indeed. I would like to get right down to it. You revealed the contents of the Hunter Biden laptop. Do you fear for your life?
No, I don't necessarily, not at this point. I think there was a period in time where people were warning me that I should be in fear of it, but
Mhm.
I think now it's so far out in the open. I
Mhm.
suppose there's some actor who might just want to get payback at some day, but I can't be
Mhm.
worried about that.
Yeah. Ha- Bring my audience up to speed. A lot of the audience, most of it is women, which I'm honored to say. We have such a huge audience of women in leadership, women of faith, working women, single moms, and also those who have served US presidents. So if you could talk to the space of the woman who has not been on Twitter, who's not been on all the social media, and when you uncovered the content, talk to us about the order of time of how things uncovered and how did you get the content of the Hunter Biden 80,000 documents and everything else in between? How did that happen for you?
Well, essentially, Hunter left a laptop off at a store in Wilmington, Delaware in early March of 2019. Store owner's name Mac Isaacs, good guy. Said I
Mhm.
can fix it, but it's going to take a week or so, right? It was all scrambled. And Hunter never came back to pick it up. Isaacs tried to reach him by registered mail, tried to reach him by telephone, tried to reach him by text, email, everything. Nothing happens. Months go by. It's August. The Zelensky telephone call that led to the first impeachment occurs. And he's thinking, wow, I've got this laptop in my place. It's filled with Ukraine, China, this, that. I don't want to have it. And it actually is his possession. Under Delaware
Mhm.
state law, you could leave a Lamborghini at Pep Boys, and after 60 days, it belongs to Pep Boys.
Mm.
So he decides, I want to do something about it, calls the FBI. The FBI hems and haws. They finally arrived to pick it up on December 9th. He first contacts the FBI, I believe. And if in previous statements I've had this wrong, this is because I've got new information. I believe he
Sure.
contacted them in early September. And
It
excuse
took
me.
that long. It took that long for the FBI to actually act on it.
Well, they never came to pick it up till December 9th. That's the interesting thing. And it was picked up by guys from inside the counterintelligence office. That's why it's in the Baltimore office, as Ray testified to about a month ago. I was told by military intelligence that they never filed it into their records, i.e., they never filed an evidentiary form of 302 that we heard so much about during the Russian collusion hoax.
Mhm.
And so they got it on the 9th of December. When they picked it up from Mac Isaacs, they actually, interestingly, threatened him to a certain extent. They said, in our experience, people keep their mouths shut, have nothing to worry about. When he said, hey, thanks for getting this off my hands, I was in fear of my life.
Right.
And, they sort of subtly tell him to keep his trap shut on the way out the door. Now, remember what happens in between. I think this is important because there were quite a few really powerful women who were running for president, or at least for the Democratic nomination in the spring. So
Yes.
the FBI has this the 9th of December. It's in the counterintelligence office. We all know that now. I told the world this 15 months ago, but now the whole world knows it because Ray testified to it.
Mhm.
And Peter Strzok, number 2 in counterintelligence, testifies against a sitting president in an impeachment trial while the FBI has exculpatory evidence concerning Ukraine. This is all happening in January, a month and a half after they received it. Now, remember also the first people I think they betrayed were the Democratic candidates in the primary, Amy Klobuchar, Elizabeth Warren,
Mhm.
Bernie Sanders, and the one who I quite like, Tulsi Gabbard. I
Yes.
think she's quite a
Yes.
rational, thoughtful, patriotic woman.
Yes, she is. Agreed.
And so these people were all betrayed by the FBI. They sat on it through the entire impeachment and the entire Democratic primaries. And it wasn't until all of this was happening that Mac Isaacs finally decides somebody else has to know about this. I can't believe the FBI did nothing, right? He's sitting there freaking out. And because the FBI had spent so much time waiting to pick it up, 3 months, they were trying to get Isaacs to entrap people who might show up at the store, et cetera, et cetera. And Isaacs got a little squirrely and made copies of it. That's how we ultimately got one more than almost a year later. So
Mhm.
we go through the Democratic primaries. We're coming up to a
Right.
presidential election,
Right.
right? We're coming up now to these, I guess, he's just freaking out. So in the spring, he calls, I think, Tom Cotton, doesn't get a return call. I'm
Mhm.
not ripping Tom. This
No,
is the
no.
system. They've never called any American back in history
No,
who had
no.
$1 billion in the back pocket who
Nope.
called it out of the blue.
Nope. I worked for 2 US sitting senators, sitting congressmen, and the Trump administration. No. No.
Right. You know exactly. I mean, in fact, I'll tell you a funny story a little bit later in this conversation about how I snuck it into the Senate Judiciary Committee. So anyway, he finally, out of desperation, calls Rudy Giuliani. Rudy Giuliani answers the email or the text or whatever it was. And Rudy's attorney gets it in late August and spends about a month trying to verify it. I think that was a long time.
Mhm.
He then gets his hands on it, I think, first week in October.
Mhm.
I remember Steve Bannon and our producer went up there to take a look at it.
Mhm.
And a day or two later, a copy was delivered down to me because there's no way we could travel back and forth to New York in a lawyer's office to try and
Right.
look through this thing. So
Right.
Steve just said, look, send a copy to Maxey and have him start going through it. And so we did. That was really, I guess, on the 13th, 14th. And this was right after Rudy Giuliani delivered a copy to the Delaware State Police Child Protective Unit, along with Bernie Carrick. And I have nothing but great things to say
Yes.
about both those guys.
Yes.
Are stand-up American dudes who I would want, having my six in a fight anytime, right?
Yes. Yes.
Uh,
Yeah,
and
the Blue Network, Bernie Carrick is a part of, out of New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Connecticut, and they are a huge support to this show. So I just wanted to say that.
all you got to do is look at some of these guys, right? Look at who gets punished.
Yes,
That's how you know the good guys, right?
exactly.
Right? General Flynn, he's still running around. Sidney
Oh, yes,
Powell.
he is. Yes.
I mean, what possibly could Sidney Powell have said that was less crazier than anything Rudy said about the recount? The Kraken and Dusseldorf and Milan and SEAL Team 6 and Dev Group and Delta Force and all this nonsense. Nothing happened to her. She still got all
Nope.
her licenses, right?
Nope. Let me
Nobody
ask.
pushed the doors in.
Let me ask you something. You said Child Protective Services.
Yes.
Tell me.
We should go back to that. Maybe it's a very important. I'm sorry to get sidetracked.
No, you're good, but I
So
want to go back to that. So we
this
can't
was
forget.
the reason that they sent it down to the Child Protective Services was that one of the first things that we uncovered were, first of all, hundreds probably of creepy, if nothing else, photographs of his 12-year-old niece in like bathing suits and stuff and posing and crazy stuff, sort of odd. You would wonder, why would an uncle have this stuff? And then we found text conversations that showed that Hunter was accused of sexually abusing this girl. And we know this because Hunter recounted the allegations to both his therapist and his attorney. And the things that he was accused of were masturbating in front of this child, smoking crack cocaine in front of this child, watching pornography in front of this child, sexting this child. At a point in mid 2018, around May, June, Hunter is forbidden to be alone with any of the minor children in the family without his father present. These are all open conversations within the family. So clearly, as honorable men, the first priority is to check to say, rescue a child, right?
Okay.
And so get this, they take it down to the Delaware State Child Protective Unit.
Right.
This was
Right.
a unit, mind you, created by Beau Biden when he was head of the
How
Attorney
ironic.
General. And remember, Beau Biden has a foundation, the
Yeah.
Beau Biden Foundation for the Protection of Sexually Abused Children and Vulnerable Children, right? And we find out daddy's taking showers with
Yes.
daughter, and we
Yes.
find out that Hunter's abusing his dead brother's daughter. All this is happening while Hunter's also having relations with his dead brother's wife, his dead brother's sister, his dead brother's wife's assistant, and anyone else he can get his hands on. And he's a very terrifying, sort of twisted, dark, demonic kind of
Yes.
character. I mean,
Yes.
maybe he didn't start out this way, but this guy's almost without a soul by the end of this.
I would say he doesn't have a soul. I would say he is the devil walking, because anybody who does all of those disgusting, vile, pathetic, low life schemes towards young children needs to rot, and you know where. And this is a family show, but we have got to talk about the truth of what really went down. One thing before I was going to come on with you to talk about this segment, as we are looking at what I call the Biden administration right now, because I sit here and say who's really running the administration, but at the end of the day, I sit there and call it a human trafficking administration, because as I bring it back to what you were talking about, how deep is this Biden incorporation and this human trafficking administration go to other administrations?
Well, think about this, right? The Beau Biden sets up this unit. What
Mhm.
did the unit do with it? I found out in April or maybe March from Bernie Kerik when I was in Switzerland.
Mhm.
A reporter in Delaware had dug into it, and it turns out that the Delaware State Police did not do a welfare check on this child, which is required under the statute. They gave the copy to the FBI. They likely never even investigated it, and nobody took care of this child. Now, we can talk about Chinese espionage and dirty double dealing and selling influence till the cows come home.
Right.
But what does it say about the FBI that they can turn a blind eye to a young child
Mhm.
who is being physically abused,
Mhm.
who likely will carry trauma for the rest of their life, and they turn a blind eye to it for politics or any other reason?
And they have at the academy, they train their leaders on what to look for in human trafficking, because I've had clients there at the FBI Academy in Quantico talking to them. So what were they doing? Is it purely
Well,
political?
well, listen to this. You asked how systemic is this problem?
Yeah.
Certainly, when it comes to little girls, the FBI has a little girl problem. Let's remember, they turned a blind eye to Hunter abusing his niece for what now? It's been 3 years. They turned a blind eye to a monster of a doctor at Michigan who is abusing the entire United States gymnastics team filled with young women and girls for 5 years. We saw that testimony last August
Mhm.
when Grassley had the gall to look at Christopher Wray and say, the FBI's got to do better. Did anybody lose their job?
Hmm.
And then your audience can look this up. There was an FBI agent who was tasked with child protection and child pornography and child exploitation for the old Confederacy, the Southeast. He was arrested last July in Louisiana for sexually abusing two little girls. Was that on the cover of the New York Times?
No, of course not. They're not going to
I
report
mean,
it.
these failures are myriad. And then you have to remember Louis J. Free, former federal judge, former head of the FBI, sits on the Beau Biden Foundation. He is a buddy of the family. We uncover evidence that Louis Free gave $100,000 gifts to the Biden grandchildren's trust.
Mm.
He's the guy who Hunter, through Boyce Schiller, went to in the spring of 2016 to help get Hunter's corrupted partner in Romania, a guy named Povescu, out of jail, sort of Tony Soprano of Romania.
Right. Right.
And my contention is that Louis Free is the one who tipped off Peter Strzok and the counterintelligence group that he was very tight with. He kind of created it in a way. And that's a whole story. I mean, so you wonder, is the FBI tied up in this thing from top to bottom? 1,000,000%.
Yes, that's exactly it. I heard rumors, and I always talk about how this show is not going to be lamestream media. It's going to bring truth. But I want to address rumors that I've heard for years. And that is the Obamas and the Clintons leading into this Biden administration and the human trafficking rings that surround those administrations. And, the systemic piece that we talked about from the FBI standpoint, but is it now coming to a head because of the reveal of the Hunter Biden laptop contents?
I can tell you, I know nothing about any human trafficking rings. I can only speak to the things that I can see.
Okay.
But I guess one could extrapolate, if they existed, they're not doing a very good job of protecting these kids, right? I mean, human trafficking in general, I was very gratified when the House came out and described Summer Hunter's activity as human trafficking. It absolutely was. Hunter sometimes was purchasing a woman in New York and paying a human trafficker in Moscow. The girl wasn't even seeing the cash. Or, okay, it was going to her account in Moscow. I have no idea.
Right.
But this was being done over and over again. This was being done through Hunter's bank account at Wells Fargo. They were participants, therefore, in facilitating human trafficking and drug trafficking and drug dealing. There were multiple times where Hunter's bank down in Fayetteville, Arkansas, right? Why does Hunter have a private client account at a Wells Fargo
In Arkansas.
private label, Pruitt Advisors in Fayetteville, Arkansas? Well, for example, if you want to tie the Clintons in, Pruitt was a former Clinton appointee, and he's Hunter's private client banker in Fayetteville, where all of the entities are located: Owasco, Oneida, all of Hunter's LLCs. They're banking there, and this is where they laundered the $5 million from Yi Jianming, the guy who disappeared from Chinese Energy Fuel Corporation / Hudson West, the whole deal that Bobulinski was involved in. Bobulinski's now accusing the Biden family of fraud, saying, hey, part of that $5 million was mine. And Hunter, these people were like above the law. They didn't even consider the law. They considered optics, but they didn't consider legal penalty ever. And I thought it was interesting that the House members brought up 3 people that they wanted to speak to. They wanted to speak to a guy named James Gillar. James Gillar is a former British SAS officer lives on a horse farm, a thoroughbred horse farm in Czechoslovakia, right? Yeah, Dr. No. And we have, he's also brags regularly about his connections to MI6 intelligence. And he's the guy who actually writes up that document for 10% for the big guy. He's involved in a moment in time with Bobulinski and Hunter and Yi Jianming and all these guys in the attempted purchase of a third of Oman's gas and oil rights. Yes, Middle Eastern listeners, if we have any.
There are a few.
Comes, we're going to buy out Oman. So they want to ask him under oath. They want to put him on the stand. Now, likely they won't be able to get him. That's a shot across the bow of our tightest ally and really our criminal compatriot in this blind eye we've taken to criminal activity around the world for decades, the British intelligence. Second person, Jackie Bao, another girl who apparently Hunter had relations with. They declare her a Chinese spy. Well, Jackie Bao is the office manager at Hudson West, the shell company that Joe Biden and Hunter Biden and or Jim Biden and Hunter Biden and Jim's wife, but they had an office there for President Biden and his wife and all that. You know, you saw all these things. Well, they declare her a spy. I had heard a year and a half ago that she was actually Wan Shishang's daughter. This would be like the Heinrich Himmler of China, number 2 guy. So she's a spy. She's a big
deal,
spy, right?
Yeah.
And then the third person that they wanted to ask questions of was Pruitt. I'm going to just start describing Pruitt as the Clinton banker. Does anybody who is thoughtful think that Hunter Biden may be the only client in Pruitt's private client group in Fayetteville, Arkansas? That's
no way.
Absolutely not. I mean, my experience in looking into this, they create consortiums of corruption. There's another guy named Jeff Cooper who travels on Air Force One, Air Force Two regularly. He's in and out of the White House. He's all through their logs. You can look him up. Jeff Cooper. He runs a company called Eudora Global in Illinois. And Eudora Global is the place where they have these grifts like Citizens RX, which is a pharmacy benefits company that they sell to people like the Teamsters or the Amtrak Union or all of the employees at Louisiana State University. And there are emails asking Hunter to ask his father to try and help them sell it to University of Arkansas. And it's like a $10 a month cash flow for Citizens RX for every employee. And I guess if you're dying of stage 4 cancer, 10% break at the pharmacy might be helpful.
Right.
But for everyone else, it's just a grift, right?
Right.
That's also where they have the offshore online gambling operations are under that umbrella. The one that they set up in Peru called Ocho Rio or Ocho Gaming. This was for all of your viewers, we all watched Ozarks, right? Great show.
Yeah.
The leadership of the Democratic Party, Joe Biden's son, Hunter, Harry Reid's son, Key.
Yep.
3 or 4 ex-ambassadors, a bunch of other bigwigs in the Democratic Party, set up an online gambling operation in Peru.
Okay, let me wrap my brain around all of this intel that you have just brought to here at the show. Okay, so right now we have an illegitimate president in the White House. Impeachable offenses, you have just listed, what, 15? I've lost count.
But, let's remember an impeachable offense, I believe, has to occur while you're in office, right?
But don't you think it's still occurring? Don't you think things are still happening while he's in office?
Well, look at the decisions that he's made the whole time. Have they benefited the American people? Have they benefited? Who have they benefited?
Yeah. China, Russia.
It's not just, it's this whole nonsense of Ukraine, which is all about to collapse. There's
Yeah.
no question it's about to collapse. Putin's going to get everything he wanted. And yet, out of bluster, Anthony Blinken and the State Department and Joe Biden decided last fall to push the boundaries of NATO right up to the Russian frontier. And Putin's been warning about this for 20 years.
Mhm.
Don't do it. Don't do it. And now they've pushed the entire world into a global recession. It may even turn into a global depression if we're not careful.
Right.
You've watched food prices, all the
Yes.
moms out there, what's a
Yes.
package of bacon cost today versus a year ago,
What, 10,
right?
11
What's
bucks?
breakfast cost for your kids before you put them on the school bus?
Yeah.
And
Well, even with
uh,
Christmas and Thanksgiving and even putting food on the table, it was double, triple what it was last year. But
and
then again,
gasoline
yeah, exactly. Exactly.
and fertilizer and everything else. And when, very often we Americans look at the state of the world through our own lens, which really isn't a fair one, because let's say your average American spends 10, 15% of their income on food. It's
Mhm.
probably about what it is. Your average African spends 80% of their income on food. Your average Southeast Asian spends 40 to 45% of their income on food. So if you increase those numbers by 25, 50%, 80
Mhm.
becomes what, 160% of your income?
Mhm.
And in Southeast Asia, it becomes 90% of your income. We're only beginning to see what across the world, billions of people. And all of this is created by government. All of
Right.
this is created by our governmental actions. Now, one thing that really makes me upset is I get the laptop early October. I begin working on it. I
Yeah.
begin releasing information, yada, yada, yada.
Sure.
I decide I'm going to leave Steve because he didn't really seem that interested in covering it. And I felt that this was of vital importance. I did not believe the recount was going to go anywhere, largely because nobody was cooperating, and largely because I thought that they had feds that had penetrated everybody's offices at that time.
Sure. Sure.
And now we're finding out that's true. So I left. First people I gave it to, actually, first person I gave it to is Garrett Ziegler. I don't need to get into it. He's the guy who founded Marco Polo, whatever.
Mhm.
He got it under a lie. I knew him only as Peter Navarro's errand boy, and he promised to give it to the director of national intelligence on
Mhm.
December 6th, which might have changed the outcome of the election if Ratcliffe and an internal group at the White House could begin exposing the things inside the laptop in
Mhm.
that month and a half. He never did that. That's a whole nother story. Second group I gave it to is Swedish national television, because Hunter had an office inside Swedish House, which houses the Swedish embassy in Washington, D.C.,
Mhm.
the Icelandic embassy, and in the penthouse, the residency of the Swedish ambassador. And it has maybe 3 office spaces or 4 office spaces that they rent to bigwigs in Washington,
Mhm.
one of whom is Hunter Biden. And we found clear evidence that the Chinese had put a spy inside that office. A big indicator was when I was looking at this with intel agents or intelligence officers, the big question was, how did Hunter communicate with the guys in Beijing?
Mhm.
And we find out that the people in Beijing put somebody in Hunter's office, and first uh, business that she or he had to do was fly to Beijing for a 5-week communications course. Pretty sure that wasn't to learn how to use Zoom.
Yeah, definitely not.
And
Can
so
I
I
ask?
gave it to Sweden. I gave it to National Television of Sweden.
Sure.
Uh, and sorry, I don't want you to interrupt. Go
No,
ahead,
no,
Joe.
you're fine. You're fine. I just want to ask you a quick question. The turn of the election, if it had been revealed, it probably would have saved the election. But let me ask you this, knowing that you and Bannon were partners in crime on your, one of your shows, why did Bannon not show any interest in any of this? I'm questioning his loyalty to the United States, his loyalty as a public servant and as someone who served similar to you serving our nation. I just can't wrap my brain around why wasn't he even remotely interested in engaging.
Well, I think he was engaged up through the election, but
Mhm.
when Trump loses, he's in a difficult spot, right? He's got
Yeah.
a potential prosecution coming against him. I don't know. Someone would have to ask Steve that, but I mean, we actually got into a little spat about it. He told me
Uh,
he'd fire me if I mentioned the FBI and
hmm.
Hunter Biden in the same sentence again. And I don't know. Look, all I know is I don't think, and frankly, I'll tell you the truth. By January, I
Mhm.
couldn't sit there and listen to in 3 hours blockbuster news from Arizona is going to change the election. You
Right.
just knew it wasn't going to happen.
Right.
And to keep pushing this narrative that was never going to occur. It's just like if you go back and look at my social media, I said on
Mhm.
March 9th that we're going to fold. We're going to waste tons of money. We're going to paying for the rebuilding of Ukraine, and Russia gets everything they want. I like to deal in reality, and I knew very quickly that that was all baloney. And if I wasn't going to be able to mention the FBI and Hunter in the same sentence again, well, how was I going to cover the laptop? Because
Mhm.
those are the two words that are used in the same sentence now by the members of the House and Senate 20,
Exactly.
23 months later.
Exactly.
And I'm quite proud of, I think, engineering quite a bit of that. And if there's anything I'm proud of too, is I think that the change in care and concern for the FBI from 40% negative a year and a half ago or 2.5 years ago, 2 years ago to 80 plus negative
Mhm.
is partially because of my reporting on this.
Right.
And so I don't know, look, Steve was trying to get a pardon. I don't know what was going through the guy's head.
Sure.
It's not
Sure. Yeah. No,
to
we can.
me, it's not the issue. The issue is fate put something in my hands
Yeah.
and I made personal decisions about what my honor and my responsibility
Yes.
was in
Yes.
that process, and others made different.
This back on. For all of those who are tuning in, this is Common Sense America. I am Eden Hill. Thank you for tuning in on this part one series with Jack Maxey as we talk about Hunter's laptop, child prostitution, the state of Delaware, FBI, and all of those involved, to the banking in Arkansas, to following the trail of money to overseas, Swiss embassy. So many different things have come out, and more and more will be coming out. And I know that a lot of you here at Common Sense America, you don't go on Twitter or any of the social media sites. Well, that's fine, because we will bring this to you. We will bring part two to you on Friday, December the 16th. And in addition to that, we will be bringing Jack back to the show come the new year, because we all know more is about to come out as we head into 2023. On that note, I would love your thoughts, your comments, your suggestions for guests, New Year segments. We have a lot of great things coming down the pike. We have Young Voices coming on tomorrow talking about our truck drivers. And I tell you what, lack of privacy, the government continues to dig deep in trying to expose a lot of things that are just unnecessary and people's rights and privacies. But I want to talk about truck drivers, and we will be talking about them and the power of their work tomorrow with one of our great Young Voices contributors. Also, we have a new guest coming to the show. We will be talking about energy. What does the winter look like for the American people, and the Biden work or lack thereof with regards to energy? So we will have those conversations happening tomorrow, December the 15th. Also, save the date tomorrow night. If you guys have any time at all on this crazy season of giving back and going to parties and wrapping gifts and sending those Christmas cards out, tomorrow from 7 to 8 p.m. Eastern Time, I will be doing a Facebook Live with Dr. Jennifer London. She is a huge veteran advocate. She is also a business leader in her own right, a thought leader, a veteran spouse, and the co-author of Ever Vigilant. And she will be doing a Facebook Live tomorrow night on my Facebook feed, Eden Gordon Media, LLC, talking about business, entrepreneurship, leadership, and the next generation. You don't want to miss this. It's in the book, Ever Vigilant. It's a great stocking stuffer. And she actually will be one of the special guests tonight at the Capitol Hill Club with Kirsten Fedewa, Songs of the Season with tenor Anthony Kearns, and with American Humane and Special Operations Association of America, all amazing guests we had last week. So if you have a chance, go to evervigilantthebook.com and check out this powerful book written by her late husband, Dr. J. Philip London. You do not want to miss picking this up. Any last minute gifts or stocking stuffers, this is a powerful gift for those who are graduating from university, for those who are wanting to climb that ladder, whether it's corporate or Capitol Hill or political. This book is packed full of leadership tools, and it really just shows the legacy of Dr. Jack London during his time at CACI, a Fortune 500 business, and many of those in the Washington and New York areas are familiar with his name, as he was a powerhouse in the Beltway. On that note, thank you for joining a very powerful segment with Jack Maxey today. Thank you to my dear friend Maria for introducing us. I'm grateful for the new friendship. I'm grateful for what is to come as we share part 2 on Friday, December the 16th. I want to thank Money Talk with Melanie 98.7 The Coast for always supporting the show and promoting the show. Thank you to the Blue Network, Barbara from Harlem, BB Reed, George Beck, and the whole team there for promoting and inspiring and encouraging this show as well. And to all of my local Eastern North Carolina crew, my ladies' Bible study, all those who supported me on the campaign trail, thank you for your support for Common Sense America. To my family and friends, family in Pennsylvania, Indiana, Ohio, Florida, New York, New Jersey, all of you, thank you so much for your encouragement with Common Sense America. And to all of those here in North Carolina, thank you. Thank you to our military, our veterans, and thank you for your service, and to our military spouses and our hidden heroes. Thank you so much for your service. It is about 5 minutes until the hour. We are going to wrap for today. I have some Christmas events I need to be participating in. And so until tomorrow, we look forward to seeing you then. But until then, make sure, if you haven't had a chance, check out Governor DeSantis' new work that he's doing. He's petitioning Florida Supreme Court for statewide grand jury on COVID-19 vaccines and announces the creation of Public Health Integrity Committee. Wouldn't this be great if, you know what, other states did this? Oh, I don't know, Pennsylvania. Oh, I don't know, North Carolina. But for all of those out there, make sure you check out what Governor DeSantis is doing. He's making sure that little elf on the shelf goes not just the Potomac, but to the, let's set him to the Pacific. That would be great. Wouldn't you agree? And, you know, to all of those out there who, you know, please don't let the triple-demic quote this new term that they came up with for Thanksgiving through the Christmas holiday scare you. Please, please don't let the lamestream media scare you. You know what? I guarantee it. Come January 2023, they'll have a new term and something else, another scare tactic to shoot up their ratings. But may I encourage you to be strong, be courageous, put on that full armor of God. Take that powerful journey that God has called you to. Fill your cup with Jesus and coffee. Send a thank you to somebody you haven't talked to in a while. And remember, you matter. Until then, I'll see you guys tomorrow. Love you, each and every one of you. Bye.